Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today is the first day of Standard Brawl with the new Kaldheim cards, and today we're going to be playing with, I think, one of my current favourite commanders at the moment. That's going to be Vorinclex. This is a card that does absurd things, and I expect it to be at least some presence in Arena Brawl, because it's just stupid. I played this yesterday, and I only dropped one game out of like 5 games that I played with it, and that one game I dropped was because I horrendously punted. I minused with an Ugin with the wrong -X, and, you know, her opponent oopsed me, and rightfully so. But yeah, this deck seems pretty good. I did say on my Discord that it's doing really well, but I'm not recording, so that's probably why. Usually when I don't record, things go well. So we'll see what happens there. It's a 6-mana 6/6 with Trample and Haste. It says if you will put one or more counters on a permanent or player, put twice that many counters on that type of counter. Put twice as many counters on things that benefit you. If your opponent tries to do it, put half that many rounded down. So Sagas stop working, +1/+1 counters get halved. What else is there? Loyalty counters on Planeswalkers are halved as well. You really just make everything your opponent plays kinda terrible if it revolves around any of those things, which is just wonderful to see. Yesterday I did have our opponent Turbo Slam and Ugin the Spirit Dragon against me, and it entered with 3 counters, and I laughed very, very loudly. It was good. It's always nice when you can screw over an Ugin the Spirit Dragon. That being said, we are running it ourselves. The reason we're running it ourselves is because Vorinclex kind of demands that we do. It means that our Planeswalkers also enter with double the loyalty counters on them, which means I have to play all the Planeswalkers that can ult immediately, and Ugin the Spirit Dragon just so happens to be one of them. I would be doing a disservice to the deck if I excluded this card. Normally I would make every possible excuse not to run it, but this one, it's just too strong of a reason to use it. It's also not the slow and painful -X way of winning the game that Ugin usually brings. It's going to be the -10, the drawing 7, the gaining 7, and putting 7 permanents onto the battlefield. We're going to win on the spot when we do that, so we're not going to, like, sweep our opponent's board 17 times while they can't answer it. We're just going to win. So, you know, I feel a little bit more justified in subjecting our opponent to this awfully designed card. But yeah, let's get into it a little bit. So it does benefit from Sagas, from +1/+1 counters and loyalty abilities. As we've established, loyalty abilities getting doubled is pretty good. Ugin ultimates, Garruk Unleashed enters with 8 counters as well, which gives us an emblem with, at the beginning of each end step, you search your library for a creature card and put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. Vivian will enter with 6 counters, which means she can -2 several times, which is quite nice. Also means when she ticks up, she actually ticks up for 2 instead of for 1, which is also lovely, because that means you can just tick up, tick down, tick up, tick down for the rest of the game. That works out quite nicely. Also allowing you to cast creature spells off the top of your library is also quite relevant. We do have +1/+1 combos in here as well. Replicating Ring is an interesting one from Kaldheim. It's a 3 mana rock, adds 1 mana of any colour, and at the beginning of your upkeep you put a night counter on it. If it has 8 or more night counters, then you remove them all and then make 8 more replicating rings. So with Vorinclex out, you put 2 night counters on it every single turn. I've not managed to actually trigger replicating ring, but once you get it out there and all these tokens enter the field, you're pretty much just going to have infinite mana to do whatever you want with it at that point. So you can make, like, stupidly large Stone Coil Serpents, or make a stupidly large Vorinclex with Primal Might that then fights. Something of that nature is definitely on the table there. We also have creatures that enter with counters as well and generate them. So Yorvo is a 3 mana 4/4 with counters. It would be a 3 mana 8/8 with Vorinclex and gets 2 counters every single time a creature would enter in that sense. We have Oran Reef Ooze, which puts a counter on a thing when it enters, and then also adds counters to things with counters. So again, those are going to be doubled, which is lovely. In general, this deck is just kind of mono-green mid-range, so there's a lot of the stuff that you would normally expect in a deck like this. So we've got things like Questing Beast, We've got my favorite card in green, which is Elder Gargaroth, Elder GG as I like to call it. 5 mana 6/6 with all the keywords. Beautifully designed card. I have absolutely no issues with this whatsoever. It's just wonderful. New from Kaldheim, we have the Battle Mammoth as well. You can foretell this for 2 and then play it on turn 4 as a 5 mana 6/5 with Trample that says whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability your opponents control, you may draw a card. Basically means, short of a board wipe, your opponents are basically going to be drawing you cards whenever they answer your threats, which is just wonderful. Played this card yesterday against a Thassa Deep Dwelling deck, so whenever they tried to tap down my creatures, which is their whole game plan about not dying, I drew a card. So I just buried them in card advantage with this card. There are so many situations like that where your opponent needs to remove it as a bare minimum. Again, as long as they don't have a board wipe, as a bare minimum, this card's going to redraw itself and be a 5 mana 6/5 trample. It's pretty good. It's really nicely statted. Not too much of a big fan a lot of the time of cards that replace themselves, but this one, I don't know. I just have a soft spot for this one. It's probably because it's like Elder Gargaroth's uncle, something like that. But yeah, as we mentioned, lots of just mid-rangey cards as well. So we got 3 mana 4/4s in here with Trample. This one actually ends up being a big old Wolfwillow Haven kind of effect, adding 2 green to a land when it dies, because it will become an aura, and then you can also just turn it back into a 4/4 again. Really nice when you've done with all that mana ramping, that you then move over into just turning into a 4/4 creature. Lovely stuff. Great henge. I think it speaks for itself. We can get this out nice and cheap. Also means whenever creatures enter the battlefield, we draw a card and it puts 2 counters on them with Vorinclex. Very nice there. We have Snakeskin Veil, gives hexproof, because our Vorinclex is kind of really important. He's not going to lose you the game on the spot if he dies, but it's just nice to have him. So on turn 7, if we know our opponent's playing a control deck and they probably don't have a sweeper, you can use the Snakeskin Veil to keep him protected that way. Puts 2 counters on him as well, which is just lovely. And yeah, our removal package is essentially fight spells. We've got Inscription of Abundance, Primal Might, we got Kalni Ambush, which also counts as a land. 21 lands plus several MDFCs here as well. Kazandu, Mammoth, Florahedron, the usual stuff, Vastwood Fortification, and even Timber, Turn Timber Symbiosis. And yeah, I think that's basically all you really need to know about the deck. Lots of doubling. There you go. If you do enjoy the content anyway, guys, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And without further ado, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the gameplay. Let's do this. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Oh boy, Croxer, what a joy of a deck to play against. This hand's pretty good though. It's pretty good. Turn 2 Wolfwillow. See where we go from there. Maybe go for Yorvo. Maybe even foretell a Battle Mammoth, who knows. This card has been very much impressing me. I played it yesterday against a Thassa deck. Thassa wanting to tap my permanents. You know, it went well, to say the least. Every piece of interaction drew me a card, and I just buried them in advantage. So what are we hoping for on our top decks? Honestly, we're just hoping for lands, because we have a really nice curve here, and we want to continue that curve all the way up to a Vorinclex if we can. Opponent with the Bloodfell Caves. We did draw the land, which is really nice. I do think we are going to go for the Wolfwillow Haven. Want to set up the potential of 3-drop plus 1-drop. It's not a very likely outcome, but it does exist. I will get rid of, I think, Inscription of Abundance. It's kind of the least exciting card in this hand. Opponent puts it immediately in the graveyard as well. Don't know if I would necessarily agree with that line of play, but... Got the Great Henge, okay. So now we're set up for 5 drops, maybe even 6 with Vorinclex, although he's almost certainly dead immediately upon getting his 6 points of damage in. Opponent with Timorek Calls the Dead to try and fill up for Croxer. I guess that's why they went for the graveyard plan, is because they knew that they had this. So they can work on their Croxer a lot quicker. So where do we want to go? We could go with a Vivian Tick-Ups, not too bad. This is a 4/4, and then we've only got a 2-drop we can play after that. I think we want to go with Vivian. And we'll have a Vigilance counter. We've got an Ozolith on top, which is really nice, especially with Vivian getting us all these keyword counters. And it's super disgusting with Vorinclex as well. My thinking is essentially if we were to draw a land off the top, then we get to minus Vivian, play Vorinclex, get a 6-drop and a 5-drop. Opponent though does have the Croxer. I'm going to get rid of Steelbane Hydra here. I want to get this Great Henge out as early as possible as well. So I could go with Battle Mammoth. Battle Mammoth gives me a blocker for Croxer, and then I dump... I'm honestly not sure what I want to dump at that point, but... We could also go for a 4 or less drop as well. Just don't know if there's anything in our deck that's really good against Croxer right now on that minus. But this does allow me to get down the Great Henge nice and early, I suppose, as well. Could even go for Fortel plus Yorvo, but I'll go with this. We'll get a reach counter this time. On the off chance that we do actually play our Ozolith. Looks like we're getting a ram through, so we can use that to kill Croxer. And then maybe our minus can be Yorvo into Scavenging Ooze and then eat the Croxer. Wouldn't be too bad. We're now drawing cards as well off of all of our opponent's target removal spells, which is just wonderful. Means that we actually might get that Vorinclex minus. There's a lot of value coming, let's just say that. So, if they did attack here, there's a chance that we get blown out by a single block. If we went with the 2... oh my god. Oh, that's filthy. Well, I am blocking Croxer here to keep Vivian alive, I think. Let's go down Yorvo. I think we're making this trade. It's not the greatest trade in the world, but I kind of like Vivian. I do also very much like Great Henge, of course, but let's get that Vigilance counter again. Our opponent's only got 2 cards in the yard. They did put Croxer in the command zone this time. Something to note. Okay. This is definitely a ram through option to keep Vivian alive. Not sure they really considered the possibility of that. We do get to play the Tangled Florahedron here. So let's get that done. Replicating Ring on top. Not exactly the best. Let's go with Reach again, just in case they have a reanimation for Prankle. I'm going to lose the Great Henge to Croxer, though, if they decide to play it, which is kind of upsetting. Because it's such a good card. I think the more upsetting thing is that we haven't played Vorinclex yet. That's actually, like, deeply upsetting me, to be honest. This deck should definitely have him out by now, doing his thing. So if we have the Replicator Ring, 6 mana for the Great Henge, we've got 2, 4, 5, 6 with the Florahedron. So we can play the Great Henge. Now we can't. Our opponent did go with the Croxer. Went back into the graveyard as well this time. Croxer's bouncing around left, right, and center here. Feed the Swarm my reach creature to put reach on my counters. Fair enough. We are going to go with Scoos off of a minus here, I think. So, -2. It might not even be Scoos, to be honest. It's 5 other cards, so if they can play a card, they can get him out there. I don't think I have an ETB-related Graveyard Hate card. I could always just go for extreme value with something like Elder Gargaroth, though. Or even Renata puts 2 counters on Vorinclex as he enters. That's a useful one. I'm gonna go with Elder GG. I love that card too much not to. Let's put Reach on this Beast token, I guess. GG does have Reach. He has all the keywords that Vivian can put on it, actually. Opponent's in a lot of trouble. Yeah. So, they could have several removal spells. That obviously gets them out of it. I guess something like Extinction Event would work here. Somewhat. Their problem is that this is even, this is odd, this is even, this is even. So they could go for an even, but then I get to keep Elder Gargaroth drawing cards like crazy. Still drawing off of Vivian as well. And, you know, I get to put Vigilance and Reach on my Gargaroth. Wowee. But yeah, I think with the Castle Garenbrig as well, I might even be able to pay for Vorinclex on the way back out. I'm not sure, but that went pretty well. Pretty annoying opponent as well. Croxer's, he's a weird one. Don't really appreciate him all that much, but maybe he's actually, he might be worth a visit now that Kaldheim's out. I never really cared to play him beforehand because there wasn't much to do with him, but I don't know, maybe Kaldheim's brought some fun stuff. We can get some Berserkers in there, some Giants, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, but anyway, let's go to the next game. Alright, so, on the draw, we have a Scavenging Ooze into a Llanowar Visionary. We also have a little bit of Artifact and Enchantment Removal, which can be quite useful. It's not the best hand in the world, but with Garenbrig, we can get down Vorinclex nice and early. There's potential for this hand to be quite good. It all kind of depends on what our opponent's going to be doing. That's actually a pretty good pickup. Arcane Signet allows us to ramp up a turn as well. So our opponent is playing Yasharn, Implacable Earth, 4 mana 4/4. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you search your library for a basic forest and a basic plains and put them into your hand. Players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. I believe the only thing that actually stops us from doing is paying the life on our big land, turn Timber Symbiosis. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I'm assuming that's the case. We got an Old Growth Troll, which is kind of nice. So we're going to lead off with our Mana Dorks. I think we always just want to Mana Dork into Mana Dork. If we can get to like Vorinclex, get him down, and then just get lucky enough to top deck like a 4 mana Garruk, then GG, you know? We'll see if that's the case. Yeah, so I'm under the assumption that I can't pay the life on that land. So I think I'm just going to go with the Llanowar Visionary. We're just going to draw a card off of that. Get all the mana in the world. Wolfwiller Haven. Alright, so we're ramping. We're going to be able to play all of our cards. That's a thing. Are those cards going to be good? We'll have to see. Our opponent can have ECD for Vorinclex as well at this point. Caryatid is adding 2 mana as well, so our opponent is basically a little bit ahead of us, I would say. A Shire, Soul of the Wild, and a bit of a visual glitch there. Ooh, Maze Mine Tome. That's a really good nombo for us, because we can't ever punish the tome counters. They can just use it to draw forever. We do have a Gem Raiser. Whether or not that's the right call, though, I'm unsure. As I said, it's nice to get down something like Vorinclex so that we can top deck like a beast, but yeah, I'm not sure if we should leave it around, to be honest. I might do Gem Raiser mutate on the Visionary to kill it. And then this leaves me with Scavenging Ooze with the extra mana. Not the best move in the world, but I guess we could also do Old Growth Troll as well, being a 4/4. It's quite nice. It's not as if the Ooze is going to be eating anything anyway. Yeah, I guess so. We'll figure out if we want to double block a Shire. It's possible that's correct, since the Old Growth Troll comes back as an aura as well, but... Oh, no, maybe not. Luminous Broodmoth is pretty damn good for them. Yeah, I think we're losing. Our opponent has some very good draws. I have a hard time seeing us win from here. It's a weird one. So yeah, I kind of think that we're going to go with a Vorinclex. Again, we're hoping for a beastly top deck, but I don't think those are going to happen. We'll go with an Ozolith. Is Vorinclex also a nombo with Luminous Broodmoth? Is our opponent highlighting the downside of this card in every possible way that they can? So Luminous Broodmoth says, if a creature without flying dies, return it with a flying counter. Vorinclex means if you put a counter on it, you have that counter rounded down, which means it doesn't get a flying counter. Which I think means with Vorinclex out... Wow. Rude. With Vorinclex out, our opponent actually is kind of immortal. And there's not really much we can do about that, because our hand doesn't really help us either. So, oh, we can't even play that. Yeah, our opponent with the nice oops. They're just a really nice person that you want to be around, I guess. Yeah, we're just going to scoop and go to the next game. Our opponent literally has all the hate pieces for us in the world. Oh dear. This is a matchup. We have some good cards here. It's all going to come down to the ramp, I think. We have a Beanstalk Giant and a Replicating Ring. So we're going to go with this one. I'll start off with the Castle Garenbrig, because it's currently the only guaranteed tap land right now. It looks like Symbiosis is also going to get used as a land here, so we may end up bolting ourselves. Undecided. Our opponent does have the Gilded Goose. It's pretty good. That's the first step along the way of getting the nut draw going. I think we'll go with the Tome of Legends, because there's a chance that we just draw a land next turn, so we don't have to bolt ourselves with the Symbiosis. So our opponent's best draw here is essentially another ramp spell. Sooner than get Vorinclex out, the better. If we can get Vorinclex out into Garruk Unleashed, I think we win. Opponent does have a Harbinger, and I have essentially no defense against that. But I think that's okay. With Replicating Ring, it's a little bit more susceptible to Gem Raisers and Thrashing Brontodons than Beanstalk Giant is, but at least it gets ticking. That's a tough one. I think we're going to go for it. We're going to use our Tome of Legends. We were aiming for a land drop there. We didn't manage it. Could actually turn our opponent's Vorinclex into an elk. It's a pretty good draw. So it looks like Symbiosis is going to be our land drop. I don't think we can afford to take a turn off from not playing Vorinclex. Kogla fights Vorinclex. And then there's a Llanowar Visionary. Alright. Bit of a problem. 3, only 4, 5 though. So if we play Vorinclex here, we get 2 counters on the Tome of Legends. And potentially just alter Garruk if they can't answer it. They have nothing on board right now to technically answer it, so this could be really good for us. Are we gonna do anything here? So, Harbinger can attack into Vorinclex, and then our opponent could have pump spells. Pump spells aren't very common. They could also just have Primal Might and just win that way as well, so like even if I attacked, they're probably gonna kill it that way as well. It's just whether or not I want to fight, and I don't think I want to give my opponent ram through plus blocks for the damage, so I'm just going to get him for my 6 here, put counters on the Tome of Legends instead. In theory, our opponent getting combat damage off of the Harbinger is bad, but us having an emblem for them is worse. So we'll just let them have this. And see what they can do with it. They got a Yorvo. Yorvo's only a 4/4. They play the Yorvo. It's only a 2/2. Vorinclex, thank you. Appreciate it. Ooh, the Ozolith. We get 2 counters on our replicating ring. And yeah, I think this is where we just immediately ult Garruk. It's just too good not to, I think. We can play Beanstalk though, can't we? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we can do Beanstalk's Fertile Footsteps first. Grab a forest. Play Garruk. Emblem Garruk. That should probably win us the game. That'll probably do it. Now I think we get in the damage because we want those Tome of Legends counters, and we also pretty much know that we're going to lose Kogla. Lose to Kogla anyway. We could go with... We have options. Like, I could have an 8/8 Yorvo. It's a pretty good blocker. Renata's also kind of nice. Questing Beast is a good blocker. Battle Mammoth means I draw a card when they kill with Kogla. I don't know if I care about that, though, necessarily. I think I'd rather just have a big boy. Yeah. So yeah, that game was basically who gets the most absurd draw post Vorinclex possible, I think. If they answered our Vorinclex, they were definitely going to win that one, but they didn't. And we kind of wrecked their entire game plan here. Like, even if Yorvo dies, they put half the counters on Ozolith, which means they only put 1 counter on it. And then when it comes off, they put half that again. And it's 0 counters, which is kind of funny. But yeah, we have an emblem that just basically says we play 2 creatures every single turn for the rest of the game, and they're also very large. We're drawing 2 cards a turn. We're eventually going to get masses of mana with the replicated ring, because this is getting 2 counters every turn as well. It's too much value here for our opponent, and they just couldn't handle it. After that, what do? I mean, Garruk ticks up on Yorvo, though we're assuming he's probably dead. I'd probably go for like a turn Timber Symbiosis, or maybe the draw off the Tome of Legends. See where we go from there. Because our opponent has to Kogla, we know that for a fact. It's just going to happen. From there, you know, we can get maybe Questing Beasts out or something like that. Save this just for their Vorinclex, which is kind of really backbreaking, I think, for them, because they have no way of removing it without my permission. So, pretty solid stuff. Let's go for the next game. Okay, we're on the play against what would possibly be a decent matchup, actually, and I like this hand quite nicely. It's okay. I think we are going to go with the tap land first of all. I'm most likely going to need to do that anyway with this hand. So let's just get the tap land out of the way so that we can play 2-drops and do our nonsense. Yeah, I think we're going to go with the Scavenging Ooze here so that we can block the Dusk Wielder into Beanstalk Giant. Our opponent is playing Tyvar Kell, a 4-mana, 3 loyalty Planeswalker. 1 loyalty if we play our Vorinclex on time. It ticks up, adds Death Touch and +1/+1 counters to an untapped elf, makes an elf, and then does an emblem that you probably won't see, and makes their elves mana docs as well. It's also pretty nice. They have an Okame Adversary. I hate it. Thanks. What am I doing here? I think I'm just gonna... Could make a token. I could ramp. I think ramping is more important. I feel like the cards I have in hand will win me the game in the long run. Problem is, our opponent literally plays this card against us. Yeah, I have a card. Hopefully with my Battle Mammoth, we'll be doing something quite similar to that. Oh, they're all kind of in on the Death Touch plan, it seems. So I can do Replicating Ring into the first Heroine games, I suppose. Is that the plan? That's the plan, I think. Yeah. We kind of missed the boat on Vorinclex triggering off the Heroine games, but it's still okay. Because the next chapter would give us 6 +1/+1 counters. That's fine with me, though. I'll take some more damage. So I'm guessing they're adding as many Death Touch elves in here, because they have the... can't remember his name now, actually. It's a 3-mana poison counter elf. Which works quite well with Tyvar Kell as well.
Of course, I'm hero material.
Alright. 3 counters. They're going to go on this token here. We are almost certainly going to play Vorinclex. And kind of hope for the best. If our opponent doesn't have removal, then we get to, you know, draw lots of cards and kind of shut down Tyvar Kell. He doesn't tick up anymore, necessarily. As long as Vorinclex is out here, we just want to see something like any of our Planeswalkers, really, at this point. Because we'll be drawing cards and getting a gold token next turn, which means we have the 8 mana if we draw, like, Ugin the Spirit Dragon. We can ult that immediately. Drop a million things into play that also benefit off of Vorinclex. Just a turn too early on our Vorinclex, though, otherwise this would have entered with 1 loyalty counter, and our opponent would have cried. Alright, looks like we might have dodged a bullet on our opponent's removal. Makes me wonder whether or not I should actually block the Okame Adversary now with our 4/4. Since we're going to draw off of the Vorinclex anyway. I don't want to be losing too much life after all. Play Harold. Okay. It's the discard elf. No counters for you. I wonder if they were actually hoping for them. And yeah, happy to trade a 4/4 off here. That's enough card draw. And we will eat it as well. Put 2 counters on our Scavenging Ooze. It's pretty nice. 2 counters on our Ring. Trigger both of our chapters on the Rowan games. Ult our Garruk to get the emblem. Primal Might. Probably this Herald. I don't even know. I don't know at this point. There's too much going on. Those were really nice draws, though. Yeah, an ulted Garruk should win us the game, I think. We could Tome of Legends. It would enter with double counters on it. Use one of them, draw a card. Turn this into a 4/4 for 4 mana. There's just so much you can do when Vorinclex is just out and left alone that we don't really have too much to worry about here. I think we could even play something like Battle Mammoth, but I'm pretty sure the idea is just to ult Garruk and then play things that don't really care about dying to Death Touch and swinging through. Fun stuff, fun stuff. Let's go for another. Okay, we go first. We have technically a 4-land hand with a Mana Dork, and we have the Grunk as well. This could go really, really well for us. So I think I'm going to lead off initially, I think with the Kalni Territory. Say hello to our opponent. They're going to be playing Nissa of Shadowed Boughs, a commander that will not really appreciate getting Vorinclexed. It will enter with 2 loyalty counters on it and not receive landfall triggers. So lots can go right for us here. That would have been a tap land and that would have gone very wrong for us. Gonna go with the Florahedron and hope our opponent doesn't have anything to bolt the bird here. If they play a Mana Dork, we will probably kill it with our inscriptions. They do have a Feed the Swarm, okay. Slows us down a little bit. It's not too bad though. Just play the Garen Brig, pass the turn, plan on playing something like Renata. I don't usually like playing this card out pre-Vorinclex just because the emblem is just so absurd, but it's an option available to us nonetheless. It's also not very good on an empty board either, so it's another reason why we don't just throw it out for the sake of it. Yeah, the main goal for us is just to have something that can block these 3/3s. That's our initial goal. And to ramp, of course, I suppose. Does this do anything for us? Target creature you control fights one you don't control. Dang it. Ooh, Solemn's nice. I like Solemn. I think that's the plan, yeah. So I can fetch out a basic forest. I can block the Florahedron. The lands of Nissa do have Menace, so I'm not going to be able to block those. I could eventually in the future use this, though, to fight them. It's a possibility. Alright, so there's the Nissa. Right up to 6 for the potential to put a 4-drop into play for the -5. See whether or not she wants to do that. She does. Questing Beast, I guess. I'm just really good at this game. I'm really good at knowing the worst possible card our opponents could have at any given time. That probably means that I am gonna Primal Might it with Solemn. I think I can do that. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I can do it exactly enough. Oh, we could trade Nissas and Questing Beast stuff as well. That's an option. If I played Vorinclex and it didn't die, though, this is the important part. If it didn't die, I get to ult my Garruk. The price of that is that it does die and I take 9 damage. Or I could just trade. How much does this leave me with? This leaves me with 6, right? Yeah, it doesn't really let me do anything extra. Should we YOLO it, chat? I kind of want to YOLO it. Then again, fighting the Questing Beast with the Might is also quite nice. I'm going to YOLO, because I'm crazy. This is a must-answer threat. We haven't really given them too many things to answer, but they did use a Feed the Swarm to get rid of a mana dork. I think that says a lot. Let's see if we can kill the Nissa here. They might actually let it go, to be honest. So I think it comes back with... does it come back with more counters? I don't even know. I'm gonna block and draw. We just want land drops. It's a land drop. It's going to enter tapped. I could fight. I'm not sure it's worth 3 damage to get rid of a Gilded Goose or a Florahedron, though. I'll feel really bad if they don't play a land and then they played a Kogla. Okay, Nyx Bloom Ancient and Pelucranos into the graveyard. Questing Beast gets his damage in, we're fine with that. As we said, we literally just want to get that Garacult. After that, anything kind of goes for us. Oh, baby. So we can do the Great Henge into Garruk. This way, if they had removal and they were kind of just waiting for us to play something else like our Garruk, we've at least punished that line of play by having a Great Henge enter because Vorinclex exists. Then we're going to go Grunk. Grunk goes Kaplunk. And then we get creatures out of our deck every single end step for the rest of the game. And now we wonder whether or not we want to kill our opponent's stuff. I kind of want a Primal Might of Florahedron, to be honest. Maybe even the Gilded Goose, because triple black means... what's its face? You fight... I mean, this is permanent green, this is temporary green. It does make food, though. Massacre Worm is the card I'm thinking of. So we want to get something that blocks Questing Beast. Could go for the Mammoth that draws a card when it gets targeted. Could even go for a Yorvo, though, because that gets double counters. Yorvo is an 8/8. We got Gargaroth. Battle Mammoth is the one that I'm currently weighing up as an option. Could do Beanstalk Giant. I think we just do one that perfectly perfectly takes advantage of everything that we've got here. So Yorvo, nice large boy, gets double counters, blocks Questing Beast. Great Henge just now means that we're drawing a card every end step as well. So all of this is quite filthy. Yep. Yep. Oh, solid stuff. Yeah, Vorinclex is a must-answer threat. He might not look like it. He is a 6-mana do-nothing. That's where the balance actually comes in with this card. This is how you should design a game-winning card. It's something that comes down, doesn't do anything, but needs to be answered, otherwise it's an engine piece that wins you the game. The opposite end of that spectrum is something like Ugin the Spirit Dragon, who comes down and just sweeps the board for no effort whatsoever. This requires a little bit of a setup, which is why I like Vorinclex, even though it's absolutely absurdly broken in a lot of ways. Yeah, I don't know. We do technically also kind of have to run Ugin in this deck as well, because there's not enough Planeswalkers in Standard Brawl really to justify this deck otherwise, and most of the time, I'm just going to be ulting Ugin anyway. Like, we're going to win on the spot, rather than the slow and painful way that Ugin's minus usually comes accompanied alongside, so I don't know. I feel like I can slightly justify that in my own mind. But yeah, this game is so unbelievably over. We go Renata, gets 2 counters when it enters, 2 counters off the Henge. plays the questing beast, 2 counters when it enters, 2 counters off of the Renata. It's just absurd. Just absurd, and then we just fight our opponent's board. The only thing that we really would struggle with is if our opponent did find like an Ugin and sweeped our board after we'd kind of gone all in with our Grunk emblem. Comes a little bit harder to win the game at that point, but I guess that's where like Hugin's Minus comes into play at that point. But who knows. Either way though, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, I'd really appreciate if you do hit that like button and subscribe to let me know what kind of content you're interested in seeing. If you want to see more Brawl, let me know down below. Let me know what you're playing as well with the new Kaldheim commanders. I'm very interested to see if you guys have been playing any of the new ones and if you've been getting anything going well for you as well. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you have a great night.